Hello, and welcome to the Take 10 webinar, 5 Steps to Developing Direct Reports. This Take 10 series is presented by CRG emPerform and is designed to deliver practical and specific information in only 10 minutes. Our host today is Don Kohler. Don is the founder and CEO of the Inside Coach and the founder and former owner of Icon Computer Corporation. Don's clients have included DreamWorks, Comcast, Time Warner, NBC Universal, and Kawasaki Motors. She holds advanced degrees in business computer science and is a Hudson Institute graduate and a certified executive coach. So thank you for taking the time to present this webcast, Don. I will let you get started.
Well, thank you very much. Today we're going to be talking about the 5 steps to developing your direct reports. And there's 5 concepts to this, and we're really going to start off with the first one, which is know your direct reports, and we'll be going into all of these a little bit more in a moment. Establishing clear roles and expectations, a key aspect of them knowing in which direction you need them to be developed. And, of course, we want to assess the performance gap, where they are and where they really need to be an A player on the team. Fourth, we're going to be talking about creating a development plan, which is key to the incremental improvement and development of that employee. And fifth, we're going to be talking about holding regular coaching sessions, how often and what the content of those sessions should be. So with that, we're going to get underway with our first step, which is really knowing your employees. And what is it about our employees that we want to know? Well, of course, we certainly want to know what their career goals are. And oftentimes the career question isn't asked. And it often isn't asked because we don't have a position for them, or we don't feel that one will become available in any kind of a short or long-term period of time, so we simply don't ask the question. It's important in regard to knowing your employees because it's not your responsibility, and this is an important point, it's not your responsibility to develop their careers, but it is necessary for them to understand that you know what their career goals are. So by asking, you simply put out there that you care, and they have the opportunity to share that information with you. That way it's on your radar, and that's very beneficial for both of you. We also want to know what they feel they do best. And what's important about this question is it helps us to understand their strengths. People tend to love to do what they do well. So if you ask somebody that question and they start telling you that they really enjoy making PowerPoint presentations or they enjoy writing code for a program, chances are that that's what they do really well. If you ask them what they like to do the least, you'll find out a little bit about what their weaknesses are. Because again, what we don't like to do are usually the things we don't do well. So there's a lot of information impacted in just a few good questions that we really don't know until we ask. What motivates him or her to succeed? It's a really good question to ask from this point of view. Not everybody says money. And most people are motivated by a couple of different things. And what most managers do is they assume that what motivates that manager also motivates that employee. And if we're trying to motivate them based on what motivates us, chances are we're not going to be scratching the right itch. Now, most people on this will say something that has to do with either acknowledgement, recognition, self-mastery. They want to learn more. They want to be able to perform at higher levels and get training. Or they want autonomy. What motivates them is being able to have enough autonomy to be creative and do things in the way that they want to do it. So it's important, again, to ask this question. We find out, and then we can help direct the work to them, who they are, not necessarily who we are. A great question I always recommend managers ask is, what's the best relationship that you've had with a boss, and why did it work? Again, we tend to also manage people the way that we like to be managed, and not everybody likes to be managed that way. So what you're going to get here is answers that have to do with they did have a lot of autonomy and they liked that, or they had a lot of structure. They had a lot of mentoring. So when you ask the question and you ask out why it worked, it is a great way to understand what the best kind of relationship that you can start to develop with that direct report. Now, these questions are important, not only for the sake of what you will reveal in these questions, but it also sends the message to your employees, I care about you. I want to know who you are. And it sets us up to be in a much better position to be able to develop them. On to the second step. Set clear performance expectations. It's always amazing to me when I'm out in the field coaching people that about 70% of the time when you ask them in an intake session if they have clear performance expectations, they emphatically say no. It's very difficult for us to succeed as individuals in a given position, and certainly it's even more difficult to succeed in the eyes of our boss if we don't know the expectations that they hold for this position. And oftentimes it's sort of implied, or your manager might give you, or you might give an employee, a job description. And they think, well, they have the job description, so they know what's expected of them. The reality is the job description really is what you use to fill the position. Once they're in that role, within about 90 days, it looks very different than the job description. So performance expectations, set them up so it is very clear what is expected from a performance standpoint as far as the standards of the jobs, the responsibilities of the jobs, the code of ethics in the job. I mean, just spelled out, and it only needs to be a one piece of paper, one sheet, just bullet point, task and duties, deliverables, and standards. And that gives you the platform of performance. Now, performance expectations should be clear and in writing so that we both agree, we both see them, and there's no ambiguity there. They should also be mutually agreed upon. And what's important about this is that you really can't hold somebody accountable for an expectation unless they've agreed that they can, in fact, do it. And when you have it written down and in writing and you ask for mutual agreement, it's a great time to really vet out things like, well, I understand that my expectation here is to be proficient in these Excel reports. And it's that time where that employee might say, I might need a little bit more training in that area in order to be proficient to give you these reports in a timely manner. They're not going to say I can do it unless they really feel that they can. And you'll find out where any kind of weaknesses are that would prevent them from being an exceptional player. You want to make sure that you're reviewing your performance expectations every 60 to 90 days. Of course, the reason why we keep them so tight here is because we are in such a dynamic business culture these days. And if you think about what your goals and tasks and duties were 90 days ago, and you think about what they are today, it's easy to see how quickly they change. If we're operating off of performance expectations that we talked about in a yearly performance review and we haven't revisited them, chances are they could be veering off to the right and your department could be veering off to the left. In order to keep them tightly woven to the goals and objectives of the department, the goals and objectives that you have to leverage on behalf of your superiors or your boss, we want to make sure that we're reviewing them on a regular basis. The third step to developing direct reports is to assess that performance gap. And what we mean by that is we want to look at a particular employee and think about if you had an A player in that position. Make a list of those skills, the knowledge, and experience necessary to be an A player, and then compare it to the current person in that position. Rate that employee 1 to 5. So if the position has deals with customer in an exceptional manner, you might give them a 5, which is excellent. They might give themselves a 3 or 4. You might give them a 3 or 4. They might give you 5. But then you've got the ability to have a good conversation about that perception gap. So you want to have the employees rate themselves first, and then, of course, you want to compare those perceptions. And what you'll have is the delta, which is, what do we need to do to get you from B to A? How can I help you as your manager? What training do you need? So that you're always developing them towards their highest potential and certainly towards them being an A player on your team. So this is where you can start to make that assessment of the performance gap, and what you do then is you turn this assessment into your development plan, which of course is number 4. So creating that development plan, again, very simple. There's plenty of technology tools out there that automate development and planning and tracking, but you want to make sure you have one in place, and you have to do some sort of assessment of skills in order to make that development plan. Again, it can be an easy one-page document. It can be automated. It should have the employee name, career goals, 2 to 3 development areas that should include development objectives. What is it that you're trying to achieve here? What are the actions that have to take in order to develop in that particular area? And it should have some kind of time of completion so we can put some accountability around it. So if they're developing time management skills and the action is to take a time management course, they should have a date to complete that. And with those development plans, again, you want to revisit them every 3 to 6 months and hopefully revising them every 6 months. So instead of once a year, I recommend twice a year to really develop those employees towards that desired outcome. The last, of course, is to hold regular coaching sessions. Once you have set them up, you know your players, you've set up clear performance expectations, you've assessed their skills, and you've done a development plan, now you want to hold them accountable. You have the foundation for performance, you have the foundation for development, but if you don't hold those regular coaching sessions, you have no way of holding them accountable for all that good work that you laid down as the foundation. The coaching session should be at least once a month for 30 minutes or more. They don't necessarily need to be weekly unless it's a performance problem you're trying to turn around, but definitely at least once a month. And in those coaching sessions, you want to make sure that you're reviewing the employee's current experience. What kind of experience are they having? What are their obstacles? You want to look at their performance goals. What are their performance goals and how are they trending to those goals? Again, you want to visit those obstacles because you want to understand what's holding them up, what's slowing them down. You want to look at that development plan. Just like the performance goals, we want to look at how they're trending towards the development plan. Make sure that there's action towards that. And then what actions will you both take before the next coaching session? Coaching sessions should be you asking good open-ended questions. They should be doing most of the talking. If you're doing most of the talking, chances are it's not a coaching session. Well, that wraps it up for our 5 points on developing your direct reports. I hope this was helpful. This is Dawn Kohler at the Inside Coach.
I want to thank Dawn for presenting this excellent webinar, and I want to thank you for watching. Just a reminder that the PowerPoint slides are available for download on the employee-performance.com website. And also, if you have any questions for emPerform or for Dawn, please feel free to contact us.